Hi, this is Derek Regensberger, and welcome to another episode of the Clarinet Connection, your source for gear and product reviews and practice and performance tips for the clarinet. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, and today's episode we're going to be looking at new mouthpieces. I'm going to be looking at a couple by Fobes and Chedeville. The first one is the Chedeville Canter Cinema mouthpiece, and as you can see it has no painted logo on it. The next one is the Chedeville Umbra. Next up are a couple different versions of the same mouthpiece, the Virtuoso, also a Fobes. And the only difference is the opening of the tip. One is a CF Plus, which is a 1.00 millimeter opening, while the other one is a 2L, and that makes it a 1.08 opening. Mouthpiece on the left is the Fobes San Francisco 10K mouthpiece. That's a 4L version. And the mouthpiece on the right is the Fobes Europa. So you can see they look fairly similar in design. Okay, I'll turn each one of these around so you can see the facing on them. This is the Chedeville Canter Cinema. You can see it has rather broad base but rather narrow rails. Next up is the Umbra. Has just slightly wider rails and a kind of moderate face length on there. Alright, this is the 10K San Francisco. So kind of similar to the Umbra as far as the width of the rails, just a little narrower tip, a little longer face as well. That's a 4L. So this Virtuoso is the CF Plus. And so if we compare it to the San Francisco 10K, you can see they're a little bit different as far as the 10K is just slightly wider rails and a little narrower rail on this particular Virtuoso. Here's the Europa mouthpiece that I was talking about. This again is a CF Plus. So if we compare it to the Virtuoso, you can see they're fairly similar, although the Virtuoso has perhaps slightly narrower rails. Then we compare it to the old San Francisco 10K. Again, you can see that the rails are just a little bit wider on the San Francisco, but really not by much at all. So they're pretty similar in that regard. First up is the Fobes Virtuoso. It's in a CF Plus size, which is a tip opening of 1 millimeter. Let's try the same Virtuoso mouthpiece with a Van Doren V12 reed. The next mouthpiece I'm looking at is the Fobes Europa. This is also in a CF Plus so a tip opening of 1 millimeter. And the Europa is designed to give it a little more darkness to the sound, a little more European feel. So let's test it out, see what it sounds like. Let's try out the Europa Clark Fobes mouthpiece with a softer reed, a number 3 Woodstone. The next mouthpiece I'm going to be looking at is made by Chedeville, and this is the Canter Cinema mouthpiece. It was designed by master mouthpiece maker Jim Canter, and unlike some of the other Chedevilles, it has a little different look to it. Instead of having the bright yellow Chedeville logo, the logo is just engraved, but there's no added paint or coloring to it, so it's a very plain and smooth looking mouthpiece. Let's try out the Chedeville Canter Cinema with a little lighter reed. This is a number 3 Woodstone. This is the second newest mouthpiece in the Chedeville line. And the Umbra is designed to give a little darker sound than the Elite. And it's also supposed to be a little less resistant. So let's test it out and see how it feels. Here's the Chedeville Umbra F0, and this is with a little lighter reed. This is a Woodstone reed, number 3. It might be interesting to compare the two mouthpieces once I've had a chance to play the one that I chose, which was the Fobes Europa. So let's compare it to the mouthpiece that I had previously, a Clark Fobes San Francisco 10K 4L. is the Clark Fobes Europa, and this is a 1L, so it's got a tip opening just over a millimeter of 1.04 millimeters. So you can see the two are fairly similar. I would say the San Francisco 10K perhaps is a little more open sounding, but the Europa has a little darker sound to it. It's also, I think, has nicer articulation than the San Francisco 10K. But they're both great mouthpieces, and I think would suit advanced amateur or professional players quite